Get in on the action this season with Underdog's Pick'em game. Select higher or lower between 2 and 8 players and compete for up to 325 times your entry. Use code DIRECTOR when signing up to receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick. Go to Bolt fam, it's the Director. Chargers fans, we are coming off of what was an insanely fun, I'm going to say productive and successful draft in 2025. It was a long haul, dude. About close to 20 hours of streaming this weekend. Thousands of Chargers fans in the chat. I gotta tell you guys, thank you so much. Every year I'm always blown away by how much support the channel gets, especially in these big events like the NFL draft, and Chargers fans arrive in hordes, and you guys have been absolutely amazing, man. Thank you for always supporting me, my platform, my channel, and ultimately providing the hype that was appropriate for situations like this weekend, man. I couldn't tell you all of the highs that we experienced, all the extremes that I experienced, a couple of my guys that I was extremely excited to be added to the roster, none bigger than Omarion Hampton, running back, North Carolina. That was definitely the big one of the weekend. But there's a lot to go over on the new roster with the Chargers and how they draft. You know, we got a lot of beasts on this team all of a sudden. Every single player, it's like 6 feet, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", 350 pounds. Not really, but big dudes, building into the image of Jim Harbaugh's future with the team and the offense with Roman and the defense and physicality with Jesse Minter. It's been awesome. And that's kind of what I want to talk about with you guys today. Now that the dust is beginning to settle a little bit, I still see, the debris of the explosion of hype from the Bolt fam this weekend. But now things that are settling down a little bit, I just kind of want to riff with you guys and share with you my thoughts on what the Chargers roster now looks like. Of course, we had to put together some awesome images and stuff, some graphics, so you guys can get a full picture of what the new team sort of looks like now. We're gonna dissect this and get our thoughts on all the new positions, etc. It's gonna be awesome, man. I'm very excited. Chargers new team looks big, looks mean, looks ready to rock and roll, and the rookies just added all the flavor that you need to keep that toughness and that mentality going. Before we do kick things off, man, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog. Use code DIRECTOR to receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Newcomers take advantage of the free pick on screen. It's a great way to support my platform while having some fun along the way. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. Small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into this new Chargers roster breakdown. Lights, camera, action.
Who's got it better than us?
Into the end zone, Charger fans are witnesses to history!
Your 2025 Chargers new roster outlook. Let's just jump right into it, man. We got a whole lot I kind of want to talk about. A whole lot of change to go over. A whole lot of excitement to experience in terms of what this team could be. The dramatic transformation that it has taken on in the last year, which has been pretty obvious. We talked about that. And what the future looks like in this season. The roles these players are going to be playing. The impact I think these guys are going to have on the roster. I think the Chargers rookies, man, we're heading for another season where I think the rookies are going to be very involved. Like last year with Joe Alt and McConkey and Tarheeb Still and all those guys. I think we're going to have a good number of rookies provide impacts in even their rookie season, which is very exciting to think about. So let's go ahead and jump into the first position group that, Jim Harbaugh is always preaching. Jim Harbaugh is always talking about. It's going to be offensive line. And what's interesting is when going into the draft, I actually did predict that the Chargers would be mainly focusing on skill positions this year. And, I like to lump cornerback in there, but, mainly offensive weapons for Justin Herbert. Maybe that was, selfish, wishful thinking on my end. Let's get Justin Herbert some guys to throw to. Let's get an offense that, is stabilized on the ground via the running game. But also, it just really felt like, given how the Chargers performed last year, how well the defense carried the Chargers throughout the season to 11 wins. The Chargers really needed to get this offense up to par. Make sure they're matching the output that the defense was, and when you get that offense, to the same level, I really do think you're looking at a very lethal postseason team. There are ones to be feared. So let's go on just position by position and show some of the additions, some of the how the position's looking as a whole now. Starting here at left tackle, Branson Taylor, new tackle / guard out of Pitt. We talked about this guy in the grades breakdown. I think you guys would love that. If you want a deeper in look to all these rookies, definitely go check out my grades video. But on the surface, like we talked about, dude is huge. 6'6", 330-something pounds. Big, beefy backup tackle / guard. And if we take a wider look here at the roster, really does kind of mirror what we have on the other side with Trey Pipkins. Some people would say, hey, why didn't we go, replace Trey Pipkins? He's going to be a guy that gets cut. It's still possible, but Pip at this point does provide, again, a little bit of stability, familiarity, and flexibility, which is being able to play guard and tackle. On the right side, it really feels like Trey Pipkins is sticking around for those reasons. On the left side now, it feels like Branson Taylor was the selection. Was that in round 6 or round 5? Because of those same concepts. He is flexible. He is massive. Of course, you're talking about the other guy that we brought in Mekhi Becton. He's what, like 6'7", 6'8"? Huge human being. That is really what the Chargers are building up front. And the flexibility that Branson Taylor is going to provide does bring a lot of upside to our depth, which is going to be an important aspect to this team going forward as well. The Chargers want to remain strong, given all of the trials and injuries and rotations, all that kind of stuff, keeping people fresh, keeping the line strong and stable. And Branson Taylor offers a lot of upside in terms of what he brings via pass protection. He definitely graded out pretty well there. His upside is definitely pretty nice there, and having a guy behind Slater hopefully gives a little competition to Johnson too at guard. Makes me think that was definitely not a bad pick. The Chargers really did find some good variety all over the draft in order to help fill those positions. So Branson Taylor I like a lot. Left tackle we all know is great. Zion Johnson maybe getting a little bit of competition now, with Branson Taylor. Looks pretty good. At center now, sneakily, I'm going to tell you guys this right now, sneakily, I think this may have been one of the biggest moves the Chargers made this offseason. And of course, it's not going to turn a lot of heads. Andre James does have a lot of upside. We know that he's going to be one of those guys that thrives the man gap system, power run. The Raiders switched from that system to now their current system, and that's where Andre James kind of fell off a cliff. There could be a lot of reasons for it, but I do think changing the scheme and the system does have something to do with it. And bring him into the Chargers fold, where we're really good at developing offensive linemen, really good at utilizing them to their strengths. I think James is going to have a spectacular bounce back here. But more importantly, I think, and this is where it's kind of crazy because Bradley Bozeman's still on the roster. I guess we could do a lot worse in terms of backup center, but the Chargers center position was so bad last season that I do think it had an impact on the guard position as well as Zion Johnson, Trey Pipkins. I really do think that Andre James' involvement this year is not only going to help the Chargers system thrive in terms of giving us some nice power up front for, now Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris, but also maybe, offer a little bit of stability for Zion Johnson, who was struggling last season, and continued stability for Mekhi Becton, who had an awesome year last year with the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's going to kind of, trickle into Zion Johnson at some point. He's playing against, in between, Rashawn Slater, who's an incredible tackle. Mekhi Becton, I think, is going to help Andre James a lot. And in turn, I think Andre James is going to help Zion Johnson a lot. And at the end of the day, I think the Chargers offensive line and the center position in particular is going to help elevate this offense. We saw really good production out of Justin Herbert when Corey Linsley was on the field. Unfortunately, that was something that couldn't stick around. But I really do feel good about the Andre James signing. I think he will be the starting center this year. And I think he's going to really help, push us back in track. Is he going to be the long-term answer? Maybe. I think more than likely the Chargers go after one next season in the draft. So maybe he sticks around for a couple of years. But he really does give us a large gap, in my mind, a large step forward from what we had last year in Bradley Bozeman. There's also talk about Zion Johnson competing for the spot too. We'll have to wait and see how that works out. But offensive line looking pretty good with some of the changes. By the way, if you guys couldn't tell already, orange on the name, or I should say yellow, means it's a free agent acquisition, and then blue is a rookie addition to the roster this season. Okay. So Mekhi Becton, talked about him a lot since he was signed. This is a huge signing for the Chargers. Again, very much so their style. He's got the size, this huge strength. Graded very well last season, blocking for Saquon Barkley. Offensive line for the Chargers, Coach Joe Alt on the other side too. Going to provide some exciting opportunities for these players going forward. Let's move into the middle here real quick and push this down the line. Justin Herbert, obviously, don't need to talk too much on the big guy himself. Chargers are going to look awesome at quarterback, and everything we talk about surrounding Justin Herbert will involve him in one way, shape, or form that will elevate his game. And of course, that was kind of the name of the game in the draft this season. How can we help Justin Herbert? How can we elevate his game, bring him some stability and options to keep the offense on tempo? And Herbert looks really, really nice, man. Again, I think you're going to get to see some of his talent on display that we haven't seen since the Tyron Johnson, Jalen Guyton days in terms of a big arm. I think you're going to get to see him, become a little bit more mobile. I don't even know if it's necessary, but I do think you're going to see him more because of how much it worked last season, how well the line is utilized this season. And, of course, these weapons that we've surrounded him with, too, very good at improvising. So if he's able to run around and buy some time, you're going to see Ladd McConkey and Trey Harris and even Omarion Hampton, who's really good from the backfield as a receiver, work with Justin Herbert and his mobility. So it's going to be awesome. Taylor Heineke, Trey Lance backing up Justin Herbert. Trey Lance, of course, likely stepping into that Easton Stick role as QB3. The new emergency quarterback thing they've applied to the roster in terms of that role, I think, is why the Chargers did this, because one of them is going to stick around in the practice squad, which is likely, Trey Lance, and then he'll be inserted as an emergency QB3 at some point. I think, as far as I remember, that's how it works. Let's look next at Justin Herbert's weapons. It honestly, dude, it took such a dramatic step forward this year. It makes me so excited at the thought of how different the offense is going to look in 2025. Last season, it really did stall. And what was funny is I kind of got to see in real time when that happened in person. Shout out to Ricardo out there who provided us some awesome box seats for the Chargers-Ravens game. Unfortunately, in that game, however, we did see J.K. Dobbins go down at one point. And Dobbins in this system was so important to the consistency that the Chargers were looking for that after that moment, when Dobbins took the awkward tackle and he did not return to the game, after that point, it really felt like the offense was out of flux. And that's because at its core, the Chargers are a running football team. And we needed to find stability at that position desperately. And that's why let's pivot over to the running back position and explain why Omarion Hampton was such a huge name on my list. Running back, the position was such a huge priority for me as a Chargers fan, dissecting what the team's trying to do and what the draft is offering and a really strong season for running back. This is why the first round pick was beautifully executed, and why I believe it's going to work. And it's for a lot of the same reasons I told you guys before. The Chargers last season, they had some good running back play, but it wasn't consistent. And it wasn't in just the terms of like big playability, because J.K. Dobbins, for the most part, when he was on the field, he was making some good plays. The consistency comes in the form of availability for that running back tandem in him and Gus Edwards. The Chargers pulled a 180, and if you look on this graphic, right, I was telling you guys, you got the yellow for the free agents and the blue for the rookies. You will not see a position more littered with colors, right, that represent that than the running back and wide receiver positions. But the running back position to me is so important because that stability is now going to be found, right? They knew they needed a big change, and they made it happen. They went from the inconsistencies in health from Dobbins and Edwards, which, again, great system fits but couldn't stay on the field, to Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris. These guys do not miss football games. These guys are exactly the archetype that you're looking for in terms of what the Chargers run in offense. Najee Harris. They're saying right now it's the Lightning and Thunder. That's what we called J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards last year, and it's the same principles applies. The nail, the hammer, Omarion Hampton being the hammer at UNC. It's the same principle here. Najee Harris going to soften up that line, bring you that consistent, tough yardage. Omarion Hampton, dude, the slasher, the dasher, the lightning. He's a big play guy, but he also brings you the upside of also kind of, bringing that hammer, that thunder because of his power and his size and his strength. It's incredible what the Chargers were able to do in really flipping a 180 from last season. Right, the running back game was still kind of figuring itself out. We were building our way into that identity. We didn't have all the pieces, and now, guys, I'm telling you right now, the Chargers not only did a good job, I'm going to say a pretty decent job at revamping the interior of that offensive line, which was really important. But the running back game, man, I promise you, is going to make a huge difference because look at these guys individually as well. Omarion Hampton, Najee Harris, both coming from offenses last season that really didn't have a lot going for them. At times, UNC found a rhythm. It was past the Drake May, era out there, so they really didn't have a very stable passing game. A lot of it was put on the shoulders of Omarion Hampton. Defenses knew it, and regardless of that, Omarion Hampton shouldered the load and found consistency, and he was their offense. He was the reason why they had any sort of success on offense. You can almost say the same thing about Najee Harris. Yeah, you did have, Kenny Pickett, or excuse me, Pickens. You had Pickens out there. You had, some play every once in a while from Russell Wilson and those guys, but for the most part, Najee Harris, it wasn't an offense that wasn't, working. It wasn't complete. And Omarion Hampton came from the same background. Both of these guys had to individually, with their individual talent, move the football, and they both did a great job. Of course, Omarion Hampton coming from UNC, incredible in that role. Najee Harris, very consistent, does not miss football games, puts up 1,000-yard seasons every year. It's going to be an incredible 180 to see how this turns out. And then Kamani Vidal, Rocket Sanders. Yeah, we didn't get a chance to talk about the undrafted free agents. Hopefully, we see a few make the roster this season. Rocket Sanders, one of my favorite late-round picks in the draft this year. We ended up getting him undrafted, which is insane. Guys, this is like a 6'2", 6'3", 220 or 30-pound fast running back. I think he ran like a 4.4 something. Maybe it was a low 4.5, but he big. I think it was a mid 4.4s. Big, fast, physical backup running back. We are very deep all of a sudden. The Chargers, our cup overfloweth in the talent of running back. Omarion Hampton's going to be a very, very big part of this team going forward. Yes, I do have him listed as a number one back, but you can almost think about them as the 1A, 1B, because that's just how the Chargers like to operate in their offense. You can definitely say Omarion Hampton eventually is going to be that bell cow. I think Rocket Sanders is probably going to be the plan going forward past Najee Harris if they don't extend him after next season. But Omarion Hampton, and Najee Harris are both going to have a role this season. You're going to see both of them get a good number of snaps. But I think eventually Omarion Hampton, just like we saw with J.K. Dobbins this last year, is going to kind of run away with the number one job. And it's because of how big a talent he is individually. He can stay on the field all three downs. He's an excellent blocker, an excellent receiver, just all around an incredible piece to this offense that's really going to hammer in what we were trying to do last year in terms of identity. We are a run football team. We are too deep at RB1s that are very, very much so respected in the league, and very much so good at talents individually. This pick right here, man, Omarion Hampton. This could very well define the Chargers' future on offense for the next however many years he plays, 7-8 years with the Chargers. Him and Justin Herbert, they're going to do some damage, man. And that's why, even with all the pushback some people were given, that aren't part of the Chargers fandom, I saw a lot of, analysts and beat writers saying, the Chargers, I like the player, but it's a running back, this, and that. You guys have no idea the impact Omarion Hampton individually as a player is going to do on the Chargers specifically, and how far that impact is going to reach in the future of this team, where we needed to find stability. We needed to find it now, and we got maybe one of the best running backs we're going to see in years to accomplish that. Omarion Hampton, incredible pick for me. My guy, you guys saw me freaking out on stream. He's going to be one of the bigger impact pieces and one of the biggest impact picks, draft picks for the Chargers we're going to see in a while. Next up, let's actually look at the pass catchers. I was going to do that last, but I was going to do that next. But Omarion Hampton, he's going to be such an important piece to this offense. Wanted to make sure we gave him a nice segment here. Let's talk a little bit about the wide receivers. Ladd McConkey, Mike Williams coming back via free agency. Trey Harris, new second-round pick for the Chargers, very exciting addition. And Tyler Conklin, which is surprisingly a good under-the-radar signing for this team, especially given that we got OG Oronde Gadsden coming in from the draft as well. It's going to be awesome, man. Taking a look once again, left from right. This is really heavily in support of Ladd McConkey being the new number one wide receiver for the Chargers going forward, which is always the right call. This guy is fast. He's flexible. You want to make sure he can play in the slot. He can play outside. He can put that speed on display, but also that he's not shouldering the entire offense by himself like he did last year. We didn't have a run game. We didn't have a second, wide receiver outside. Quentin Johnson was doing his best, but he had an up and down season once again. Ladd McConkey, now with some help, isn't going to have to put 200 yards up in a AFC wildcard game. He has help all of a sudden. Mike Williams was a great signing to bring back. Give us that X wide receiver option, but also, hindsight's 2020. Like, holy cow, how big of an impact is that going to be for Trey Harris? Let me take this off for a second. Trey Harris is going to be the Mike Williams of the future. Ladd McConkey is going to provide a lot of what Keenan Allen provided in the future. It really feels like this season is year one of the new Justin Herbert offense. Does that make sense? It feels like the Phillip Rivers offense / early Justin Herbert years offense as the book has finally closed on that, even though we still have some guys on the roster like Mike Williams. And we are ushering in the new offense of the Justin Herbert era. Trey Harris, Ladd McConkey. Everybody fits the roster beautifully. Trey Harris, the field stretcher, the physical wide receiver, the outside guy. A lot of the things that Mike Williams did for us. And in some cases, some people say the upside's even higher in terms of what he can offer, attacking the deep part of the field and how he develops. Very, very exciting. It complements Ladd McConkey so well. He's offering up more space underneath for him. You could even say Quentin Johnson's going to have some more, opportunities underneath now. Because of Trey Harris. His impact should be felt very quickly, very soon. He does have some refining to do. He is going to get the opportunity to learn behind Mike Williams, which, again, that's why I think this, hindsight 2020 is going to be such a great signing for the Chargers because, you put these guys in the same room. You let him learn, from one of the Chargers' great outside receivers. You stabilize his game, add to his route tree. You're going to see some really cool things from Trey Harris this year. He's a great blocker. I think he's going to be a better route runner than people give him credit for. He's going to offer you something from the outside that we just simply did not have last year, that we were hoping to get from DJ Chark, that we were hoping to get from maybe even Quentin Johnson or a number of other receivers on the outside. Trey Harris is going to be that guy, and he's going to be a star at some point, man. I think that he's going to be the Robin to the Batman, like we see all the time with Ortiz and Jim Harbaugh, and the way they really Ladd McConkey. He's going to shine as the Chargers wide receiver one. Trey Harris is going to have some huge games, huge impact games. He may even turn into wide receiver 1B at some point, which is definitely not too far off from the realm of possibilities. But as of right now, today, you have a really solid wide receiver 2 to complement that room. And then backing them up, obviously, again, there was a lot of room for improvement in terms of depth for this team. We'll start on this side so I can turn the camera back on. Quentin Johnson, Jalen Reagor, we know what they are. They're going to get help from Trey Harris now. They are going to get help not being shoved into roles that we need on the fly. Maybe Quentin Johnson finds some stability. And in the future, the trio that we're looking at is McConkey, Harris, and Quentin Johnson. I'm really hoping that works out. Right, but if not, we're deep enough now that it's not, code, red. It's red alert. It's the house is on fire. Like, no, you got options now, which makes me feel a lot better about giving Quentin Johnson that space and time to try and figure things out. Okay. Depth on this side, Keandre Lambert-Smith, man. I don't know. Go on my Twitter. I posted some clips of him and some of the upside I feel about him. I think he's going to be awesome. He feels a lot like somebody pointed out. Andre Carter, which is definitely kind of cool. I kind of see that. The Jalen Guyton, though, and Tyron Johnson narrative, it feels a lot like what we're seeing with Trey Harris and Keandre Lambert-Smith. We're getting some guys that can attack the deep part of the field. And that really is kind of what it feels like with Keandre Lambert. Because Darius Davis, he can do it. We saw some pretty cool upside with him last season, but he's definitely more labeled a special teamer. Great returner. Keandre Lambert is a weapon for Justin Herbert that we will see out there given his speed. And I think it was, 4.36, 4.37. Fast dude. He put up some awesome clips at Auburn. He really is that kind of weapon that Jalen Guyton was for Justin Herbert. And yeah, he's not going to be, a third or second round pick, caliber player, but he does have a pretty nice ceiling. And that speed and big playability that he offers downfield, which he graded as one of the more ridiculous players playing the deep part of the field, really offers Justin Herbert the space to pretty much take advantage of the entire field now. It felt so limiting last season where it's kind of wherever Ladd McConkey's getting open, that's where the ball has to go. Every once in a while you had Quentin Johnson. Every once in a while you had Will Dissly and maybe somebody underneath. But now it feels like the whole field has opened up for Justin Herbert, in the backfield with Amari Hampton, deep with Mike Williams and Trey Harris and Keandre Lambert-Smith, and then pretty much anywhere, Ladd and these guys are open too. It's going to open up the whole offense. And then on top of that, you're not going to see a lot of you're going to see a lot more stack boxes now, which is definitely going to open things up. Amari Hampton's still a threat even versus, a whole lot of run defense. But you're going to see way more opportunities for Justin Herbert to attack downfield because of Hampton, because of Harris, because of these deep weapons. Mike Williams being back, I'm sure he's going to love that, man. Being able to take those shots in the sideline, it's going to be awesome. And then lastly, Tyler Conklin. Again, sleeper for me. Sneakily, really good signing for the Chargers. Gave us some room to breathe where if we did whiff on tight end, we got a guy this season who, in my opinion, is a huge step above what we had in Hayden Hurst last year. Hayden Hurst it really did feel like a familiarity thing. Of course, him and Greg Roman go back and there was that first round, view of the player, and it did not work out. Tyler Conklin is a really good player. Like individually, like he's good. He's not elite, but he's solid. He'll be there. He'll provide a solid weapon for Justin Herbert. But it also, again, gave us the room to go out there and find a guy in the draft that we can ease in over the next few seasons. That I'm going to tell you guys right now, Oronde Gadsden II is going to be involved this season. He's a big wide receiver playing tight end. He's an excellent route runner from the position. He's got really good hands for the position. He's a producer. He put up 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's got the big size, the speed that you're looking for. He would have been the second fastest tight end in the draft, in the combine, had he worked out. He's pretty well rounded. One of the biggest my guys I've seen from Dan Wolkenstein on Chargers Unleashed. For good reason. When I got looking into him and his potential with the team, it made me really excited at what Oronde Gadsden's going to turn into in the future. And again, no big hurry to make that happen right now because of Tyler Conklin, who's very, very consistent, reliable, predictably reliable. And Oronde Gadsden has that time now to ease himself in. But I really do think we got ourselves a nice weapon. Kind of reminds me of what Jim Harbaugh had at oh man, it's gonna drive me crazy with the 49ers. With that tight end back then. You guys are gonna have to help me out in the chat. I'm drawing a blank. We've gone through a lot of these this weekend. It's been really crazy, man. But he likes those, receiver tight ends. I do think that it's gonna make a big impact in the future, and it's gonna be one that I think the Chargers find some familiarity in the Jim Harbaugh, X teams that really did utilize that tight end position. In the past, and it's going to get that run game. Everything's going to get going, man. I feel pretty good about the Chargers options there. So there's your offense, man. Let's look at the defense a little bit. It's not going to take as long because the defense didn't see as much movement as the offense did, and that's for good reason because the defense was really, really good already, man. The defense already had a whole lot of talent, and it was just a matter of time before the Chargers added. Or I should say the Chargers took advantage of that talent behind Jim Harbaugh and all these guys. And it kind of does go to show, maybe how much the struggle bus was limping to the finish line behind Brandon Staley. Even though he was a defensive guy, he had the pieces. They just weren't being utilized properly. And yeah, there's going to be some movement, but not as much as the offense, not by a long shot. You got the mid-round picks in Cam Hart and Tariq Still, really stepping into that role last season. They're going to be awesome, options for the Chargers. Cam Hart on the outside, Tariq Still in the slot. But then the outside guys, Dante Jackson, Benjamin St-Juste, these are nice options to have to try and mix in there to see what you got. Tre'Quez Bridges also, maybe more of a special teams guy, but he offers the size and physicality that you're looking for from the outside. I feel pretty good about the cornerbacks. It feels like it was a position that we were all kind of hoping to hit in the draft a little early. But when I put this roster together, I thought to myself, okay, we know Still and Hart are good. I think Dante Jackson's going to fit really well with this team as a playmaker. And then we do have guys in the background like Taylor. Who knows about St-Juste, who's also a tall, fast guy and big physical dudes. I have a lot of trust in Jesse Minter with the DB position this season because of what he did last year. Alohi Gilman, Derwin James at safety. They brought back Elijah Molden, which was awesome. Tony Jefferson probably now has some competition in the new rookie RJ Mickens. I mentioned a couple of my guys. Mickens wasn't necessarily a my guy, but he was certainly a guy that I was looking at a lot in the late rounds as a good option. I honestly didn't think they were going to take him, just considering I wasn't completely familiar with a lot of the late round guys. But RJ Mickens was one of those guys where I was like, hey, man, we got a really good value here. Mickens, an awesome tackler. Can play, very versatile, pretty much anywhere in the box. He played a lot, out deep he played a lot, but very, very good in terms of coverage as well. He was one of those guys that wherever you kind of need him, you can move him around and get some nice production. I think he's going to get some good play this season. I think, it does play into the hand of, what Derwin James needs to be for this team, which is the ultimate, versatile piece, versatile weapon on defense. And RJ Mickens, I think, just adds to that. And unfortunately, Tony Jefferson being a nice, big hitting, box safety, might see some competition because of how well RJ Mickens plays, pretty much everywhere. But we'll see how deep they want to go at safety. Safety sneakily is one of the biggest positions for this team. Considering you guys look at how deep we went last season, how many players that we signed. Eddie Jackson and Terrell Edmonds and, of course, Molden, and so many players in and out. Because they wanted consistently familiarity, I think more so experience of the position than anything else, where they can play coverage and they know what's in front of them and they can play, and keep Derwin James on the move. That's why I think RJ Mickens sneakily could be a pretty nice, depth piece late in the draft for them. At linebacker, I think Henley is going to continue to see his ascension. He had such a good season last year. It's hard to believe that he's not going to continue to grow. Junior Colson. This is one of those guys that I think, from last season, wasn't able to show us everything that he's got due to injury. We didn't quite get to see, his insertion into the defense. He's already very familiar with. He's one of the leaders of that defense in training camp. You're going to see him this season a lot more. Him and Denzel Perryman, you're probably going to see, mixing and matching. But he's definitely going to see a huge jump this year, just like we saw with Dayan Henley last year. Dayan Henley kind of in the background in his rookie season, really made a leap last season. I feel the same way about Junior Colson, who's going to be an awesome year 2 player for this team. Defensive line, kind of help round things out here. This is another position where I think, it needed a lot of help. I'm not quite sure where I stand on it, but I feel a lot better than I did before the draft because of a couple of selections. Jamari Caldwell probably being one of the biggest ones. The AFC West is turning into a pretty physical division. You see the Broncos trying to run the ball, be a physical football team, but very much so building to the similar blueprint as the Chargers. Of course, you now see the Raiders with Ashton Jeanty. That's going to be a headache going forward. Something that, a lot of people are saying could be a fun matchup once again with the Chargers because of Ashton Jeanty and Marion Hampton, the way that those guys are going to battle it out for their careers. And then, of course, you got the Chiefs. They're going to be a good offense year in and year out. We really needed a player like Jamari Caldwell to step in. I felt really good about Teair Tart maybe being the next Poona Ford for this team. He showed flashes of it last season, rotating in. He was really, really good. Bringing him back was a big, priority for this team. But Jamari Caldwell is going to bring that beef to the middle of this line that we desperately needed. He's going to be awesome in terms of run defense. He's got some upside in terms of pass defense, but more so he brings that size that's just going to gobble up blocks, help the Chargers. get to the quarterback on the edge. Scott Matlock, Deshaun Hand, again, it's like some moving pieces this season. The interior did need some help. Maybe it's going to end up still being one of those positions where we're going to have it be a little bit of a work in progress, but Caldwell and Naquan Jones and Deshaun Hand, you'll have to see how this trio of additions end up helping the Chargers defensive line. But hey, I think it's off to a lot better start than I was expecting. Jamari Caldwell has a really nice upside in terms of his rookie impact, and I think Chargers fans will like him. Last but not least, we got the edge players, which again, there's two positions I really think the Chargers defense is going to be built on in terms of their success. It's going to be edge and safety for this team. Of course, the trench is very, very important, but edge, dude, you see the Chargers really going in on edge the last couple of seasons now. Khalil Mack, bringing him back, huge priority for this team, it seemed. It's going to bring some stability from last season, but also, again, just like we talked about, like tight end, wide receiver, it's going to bring in some opportunity for the Chargers to ease in some of the new guys and buy some time to maybe go draft a guy next season to help in rotation. But Khalil Mack's going to be Khalil Mack from last season. He's going to be awesome. Bud Dupree still on the roster. On the other side, you're going to see a nice jump up for Tuli Tuipulotu this season, considering that he's going to be the guy opposite of Khalil Mack. He had an awesome season last year in rotation. And behind him, Kyle Kennard, dude. Ooh, you guys were so high on him in the chat during my live stream. SEC Defensive Player of the Year. He's going to be able to insert himself right away in his rookie year and make an impact. I would think at very minimum you're looking at 3 or 4 sacks from Kyle Kennard in rotation. And he's going to offer a lot of what you're looking for in terms of that, like, speed edge that's getting to the quarterback, to complement the power of like a Tuli or a Khalil Mack. And I think he's got a really bright future with his team. Kyle Kennard, I think, is one of the better values we got in this draft. Him and Mickens, I think, were two of the biggest values that we got from the draft this season. I think you're going to see some really good play from him. And what makes me excited is his upside. Like, we're going to get a nice preview of it this year. Maybe he does become the opposite guy of Tuli Tuipulotu. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna take that out of the realm of possibilities. I think he really could be that guy next year. But if anything, at very minimum in his career, he's going to be an awesome rotating edge 3. Whether Mack is here or whatever, Tuli and Kennard are going to be, lightning bolts for the long haul, and I think they're going to be very, very good together. So there you have it. There's the Chargers defense. There's your Chargers special teams real quick. Nothing has changed there, but the Chargers still look as good in terms of the upside as ever with that, and it's going to be great, man. They did bring back J.K. Scott, too, I think is the only development on that side, but very cool outlook, man. I'm looking very happy. The Chargers have really turned into that physical, mean football team that we were promised. Every single draft pick was a giant human being in terms of beef and strength and size and even height with a lot of them. It's incredible to see what we've accomplished in terms of transforming our identity in just one season. We had a lot of pieces still kind of figuring itself out over last year, but now with this year, with the free agents, we had a lot more money to work with. We had a lot of draft capital to work with. It really feels like we leveled up. We took that Super Mario mushroom, and now we're huge versions of what the Chargers have been for the past several seasons. And I'm going to tell you guys this right now. I think that's the earliest I'm declaring this on any of my videos. I think the Chargers, based on what I'm seeing, based on the talent that's been brought in, based in mainly starting to fit the mold a lot better via the additions that we made, I really think the Chargers make a nice jump this year in terms of their success. They're going to be dangerous, and they're going to put up some nice yards on the ground, and Justin Herbert's going to be as consistent as ever, but more so, and most importantly, they're going to win some football games. Tough schedule this year. We got some tough opponents this season, but I really do think the ceiling of this team is definitely like within the realm of 12-13 wins. We were so much more prepared to do that, so much more armed to do that. Yeah, we still have some pieces and positions that we got to look at, like maybe left guard. We could maybe strengthen some positions like center next year and defensive line, but as a complete football team, is as complete as I've seen for the Chargers in a while, and we're really fitting that mold now of a physical Jim Harbaugh championship football team. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you like what you saw here, hit us with a like and sub on your way out. We'll see you next time, and as always, bolt up and stay frosty. Let's do this, baby. Oh, big bad football team behind Amari and Hampton. Let's get it.